Hello, welcome to an analysis of XAT 2024 Decision Making sectional. As usual, XAT 24 decision making was not an easy one. Despite the shorter caselets and the easier language, the sectional, as usual, elicited its fair share of questions and queries revolving around the correct options and the closeness of the options. In fact, the term subjectivity is often brought into discussions of decision making. While there may be different ways of reasoning out the question and its answer, the fact remains that one needs a very careful and critical examination of the question, the problem scenario, the facts of the case, the stakeholders, and the options given. Unless the different possibilities arising out of each option are carefully weighed and an optimal answer arrived at, elimination of options becomes incorrect. In this video, I have tried to evaluate all options, keeping the core requirement of the question and the facts of the case in mind. I hope this helps you in applying a systematic approach to decision-making questions and brings you closer, helps you inch closer to a more structured, critical thought process for decision-making. Do solve the decision-making caselets before you watch this video and go through the elimination of options. Here is our first decision-making caselet. In solving DM caselets, it's important to pay close attention to the facts of the case, not be swayed by the simple language given, and not involve any assumptions in unbiased reading of the facts of the case is very important. Now, remembering the facts and important details is very important in solving the questions because each question has a problem that needs to be resolved in the best possible way. So, what is this caselet all about? There's Mr. Singh, who employed two part-time domestic helps, Vimla and Sharda. Vimla did the cleaning and dusting while Sharda took care of cooking. Once Sharda fell ill and therefore took leave, but when she returned, she found that a lot of things had happened, which is Mr. Singh's gold ring, which was of sentimental value to him, was missing. He suspected theft and therefore he terminated Vimla. Mr. Singh offered Sharda additional responsibility of cleaning the house, along with an offer to double her salary. Now, Sharda was really struggling to make ends meet because her previous two jobs had been lost due to frequent health-related absences. And therefore, she was very happy with the offer. But the next day, while cleaning under the dressing table, she found the gold ring. She gave it to Mr. Singh. He was overjoyed, of course, and he expressed his gratitude by presenting Sharda a reward of 1,000 rupees. After all, it was of sentimental value. But he made no mention of reinstating Vimla, bringing her back. Now, let's look at the first question and see what the first question asks of us. The additional information here is that Sharda was contemplating whether she should inform Vimla that she found Mr. Singh's ring. Which of the following considerations will best dissuade, not persuade? To persuade is to convince. This is what will stop her from sharing the information about the ring with Vimla. Now, who are the stakeholders or people involved in the case that we must keep in mind? We need to keep in mind Vimla, of course, Sharda, and Mr. Singh. These are the three parties involved. What is the criteria that our correct option should fulfill? We want an option, a consideration, that will damage or affect Sharda negatively. And therefore, that is the option that will dissuade her or prevent her from sharing the information about the ring. Let's examine the different options. Mr. Singh will probably terminate Sharda if he gets to know that she has revealed this information. Now, this is very damaging to Sharda. We know the fact stated is that she's lost her previous two jobs because of her health-related absences. Now, losing this job is not something she can afford. She's in need of a job. So this might damage Sharda the most. Let's wait and see if there is a better option. Option 2. Had Vimla done her job properly, she would have found the ring and avoided this incident. Now, this only throws light on Vimla and maybe her possible negligence of work. It doesn't really damage Sharda in any way. So, this option might not dissuade Sharda from sharing the information. 3. Vimla already knows she has not stolen anything, so telling her will not give her any new information. Vimla knows that she hasn't stolen anything, but she doesn't know that the ring has been found. Also, this option does not damage Sharda in any way. So, perhaps this might even convince Sharda to reveal the information rather than dissuade her, because it has no damage to her. Option 4. Sharda is not keeping well, and Mr. Singh warned her that her frequent absences could lead to her termination. Now, this can damage Sharda. However, the damage is not connected with her revealing the information. It is connected with a warning that Mr. Singh makes regarding her health absences. So, there will be termination, but because she is not keeping well and is taking frequent leave, not because she shares the information about the ring. So, this one might not really dissuade her as much as option 1 can. So, let's keep 4 as not a chosen option. Option 5. Whenever Sharda was absent, Vimla used to help her by taking over the responsibilities. Now, this is Vimla's support shown to Sharda, which means that Sharda also might want to reciprocate the support and help Vimla in her hour of need. So, this option will not dissuade Sharda, or rather, it might persuade her in sharing the information and helping Vimla out. So, option 5 cannot be our answer. 3 and 2 we will eliminate it clearly because they don't involve damage to Sharda. 4 is partly damaging or quite damaging, we can say, but it's not related to this action of Sharda, of sharing information, which means we end up eliminating 2, 3, 4, and 5 and take option 1, which is the most damaging one, as the correct answer. Here is question 2, and let's look at the additional information given for question 2. So, Sharda's health improves, dedication improves, and therefore she gets more jobs. She starts working in 3 more houses, which means she is doing well. However, Vimla was dismissed from her jobs in 2 more houses, primarily because of the ring incident. The news spread and people heard of it. And the news of the discovery of the lost ring had not become public. And that's where Sharda wants to help Vimla, especially because what is the core problem here? Vimla has lost her other jobs as well. Sharda is contemplating over possible actions, and the question wants us to identify which action by Sharda will best help Vimla. And in what way does Sharda want to best help Vimla in getting back her lost jobs? So, who are the stakeholders here? Of course, there's Sharda, Vimla, and Mr. Singh, and perhaps the other employers of Vimla. But our criteria is very clear here. This action should help Vimla, and helping her would only mean help her regain her lost jobs and clear her reputation, particularly in the eyes of her employers. Let's look at the different options. Option 1, confront Mr. Singh about concealing the discovery of the lost ring from the housing society residents. To confront is to go and question him. Now, Mr. Singh is not going to take this lightly. He might, so Sharda's relationship with Mr. Singh might get damaged, and therefore he might even terminate her. But more important than that, if you recall the facts given in the first paragraph, it did say that Mr. Singh had showed no interest in reinstating Vimla. It is quite likely that he will not disclose the information and help Vimla regain employment. So, this is not a great option. 2. Inform Vimla that the ring has been found and advise her to demand compensation from Mr. Singh for tarnishing her image. Now, Vimla will be helped, but only helped by getting the compensation from Mr. Singh. And when she goes to demand compensation, Mr. Singh will become aware of this situation that Sharda must have informed Vimla. So that's not going to go well for Sharda. She might get terminated. And compensation from Mr. Singh also does not guarantee Vimla's employment. She might just get compensation, but will she regain her lost jobs? That means this is also not such a great option. Option 3. Inform as many domestic helps in the housing society as possible that she has found the ring. Now, this might improve her publicity, her reputation. It might generate the right publicity for Vimla. It might improve her reputation. But unless and until this reaches the ears of the employers, and the employers are convinced that this is true and valid information, because it could also be rumor, it's informal discussion. Unless they are convinced, they may not necessarily reinstate Vimla. So she is not going to get back her lost employment. 4. Quit the job at Mr. Singh's house and ask him to consider offering that job to Vimla. Could be done, and this might help Vimla get back her job. But then, this may not help Vimla get back the other 2 lost jobs. Moreover, if you recall, Mr. Singh was not highly interested in reinstating Vimla. So it's quite likely that he doesn't reinstate her. And this is not going to clear her reputation with the other 2 employers, at least immediately. 5. Divulge to Vimla's employers in the housing society that she's found the ring. Now, what better way to deal with this situation than go speak to the important persons or the persons responsible for Vimla's improvement, and that is her employers. We know that Mr. Singh might not show great interest in reinstating her, but these employers who had dismissed her primarily due to the ring incident don't know that the ring was found. So if Sharda tells her employers that the ring has been found and she found the ring, they might reinstate her. There's a high likelihood that her lost jobs will be regained. Of course, there is a risk element here for Sharda that Mr. Singh might get to hear of this, because the employers might reach out to Mr. Singh to validate, and Mr. Singh might terminate Sharda. However, it does serve one purpose for sure, that the employers will now feel obliged to reinstate Vimla, because it's been proven that Vimla did no mistake here. So, of the different options, option 5 appears to be the best one that addresses our question and best help Vimla address a problem, which is the loss of 2 other jobs. So option 5 is our answer. Question 3. The news of the discovery of the lost ring eventually became public, and the domestic workers in the society were chagrined, were really angered by the treatment given to Vimla, and that the discovery was not made known immediately. They wanted to ensure that they would not get targeted every time if something was missing. So the question wants you to identify which of the policy options will best minimize the chances of employers suspecting their domestic workers of theft in the future. So it's a policy that will make the employers not suspect their domestic workers of any theft. So minimizing the chance of employers suspecting their domestic workers. Now, who are the stakeholders here? Of course, we are looking at domestic helpers, all of them, in the society, and the employers. What is our criteria here? What kind of policy do we want? We want a policy that is going to be reliable, especially from the employer perspective. It's a transparent one and something conducted perhaps by a third party, so that there are no biases here. If it's conducted by somebody connected with the domestic workers, perhaps it might still raise the doubts of employers. So you want a reliable, transparent policy that best reduces employers suspecting their domestic workers of theft. Let's examine each of the options. Option 1, the domestic workers will undergo a daily search by the security guards when leaving the society. What better than this? Now, every day you have ensured that no domestic worker leaves the society with anything stolen, because they will undergo a daily search. Considering that it's going to be done by the security guards, somebody responsible for security, because they'll be the sole ownership or responsibility of anything going wrong will lie with the security guards. They'll be responsible for it. So, considering that the security guards are going to do it, the employers will want to rely on it. It's a very transparent method as well. So, it is reliable and transparent since the security guards will conduct this, and it's also going to be done every day. It's a daily search. So, nothing has left their apartments or homes after the domestic workers have done their jobs. A very good one. Let's keep that. Option 2. When a domestic worker is terminated on suspicion of theft without proof, they will have to be paid at least 1 month's salary in full. Might dissuade the employers from putting question marks on the domestic workers. However, it doesn't best minimize suspicion by employers. Why is that? Let's say the employer lost a good which is of higher value than 1 month's salary. Now, definitely the employer will be encouraged to suspect. They wouldn't mind paying that 1 month's salary in full if it is found that the domestic worker was terminated without proof later. They wouldn't mind shelling out that money if the value of the good that's lost by them is of higher value. So you can't say that option 2 best minimizes suspicion by employers. Option 3. The current address and contact details of all the domestic workers should be submitted to the housing society. That's a good practice. But then it doesn't necessarily guarantee that the domestic workers will not steal something. They could very well steal. Even if they are aware that they can be tracked later, the police might reach them, etc. So that means the employers will suspect them until and unless their homes are searched, they are tracked, and it's proven that they haven't stolen anything. So this doesn't necessarily minimize the chances of employers suspecting them. 4. If there is a suspicion of theft, the security guards will first conduct a thorough search of the affected house. Now, this is again a very good practice as a first step in the process of discovering or recovering a lost good. But then, is it going to necessarily reduce employee suspicion of domestic workers? A lost good is lost, perhaps, and maybe a domestic worker has actually stolen it and left for the day. Just because the house has been searched thoroughly and the good has not been found doesn't necessarily mean that the employers will stop suspecting. So 4 is again not a great option. 5. When a domestic worker is terminated on suspicion of theft, the employer will have to publicly apologize if the domestic worker can prove their innocence. A public apology to be given by the employer if the worker's innocence is proven later. However, like option 2, if the value of the lost good is really high, an employer might even risk this because he's more concerned about the value of the good lost than this so-called public apology that he might have to render. It doesn't necessarily minimize the suspicion that an employer might have with regards to the domestic worker. So, of the different options, what's best for us here, because there's a third party conducting this and it's a daily search as well, which means even if there is a lost good, even if there is a theft that's done, it will not leave the society premises. It will be discovered by the security guards at the exit point itself. So option 1 is a great option here and best minimizes the chance of employees suspecting their domestic workers. Here is our second caselet. This has to do with Symbolis, an upcoming medium-sized IT services organization, where only 1% of the employees were awarded an annual performance bonus. Now, this annual performance bonus was decided by a committee of different functional heads, which means it was done carefully. The evaluation was done carefully. When Miss Nalini received the annual bonus for the first time in her 5 years at Symbolis, Miss Shalini, a colleague with 7 years of tenure, told Nalini that this annual bonus was less a reflection of Nalini's performance and more a recognition of those who have fostered a strong rapport with the powers that be. What does this mean? So, Shalini says that this annual performance bonus is not really given for someone's performance, but is given because those people have developed a strong rapport with the important people and the superiors and the top management of the company. Because they are loyal and in the good books of these superiors, that is why they are given the annual performance bonus. Incidentally, Shalini had never received any performance bonus, though she had worked for 7 years at Symbolis. Now, let's examine the first question. Of course, Shalini's comments deeply hurt Nalini because she had always considered Shalini to be a close friend, and also because she felt that she had worked hard for this performance bonus. Nalini wanted to decline the bonus, especially because she respected Shalini and she had a great rapport or relationship with Shalini. Now, the question asks us which of the following reasons, if true, will best dissuade Nalini from declining the bonus? Will best make Nalini not decline the bonus, or best stop Nalini from declining the bonus? So, what is a reason that will make her accept the bonus? In other words, because you have two negatives, that means something that will make her accept the bonus. Now, let's look at who the stakeholders are. There is Nalini and Shalini. What is the criteria that you look for? Any reason that shows Shalini's comments have no substance and can be ignored, because anything that proves Shalini's comments as not valid, as hollow, that will make Nalini go ahead and accept the bonus. She will not decline the bonus. So you have to choose a reason that will convince her that Shalini's comments can be ignored and she can go ahead and accept the bonus. Let's look at the different options. Option 1, Shalini, good at heart, is known for making insensitive comments. Now look at this. She seems to have a reputation for making insensitive comments. She's good at heart, though she means nothing evils as such, but she makes these insensitive comments. So that means that perhaps these comments can also be ignored by Nalini because Shalini is known for making such random or baseless comments. Good one, an option that might clearly dissuade Nalini from declining the bonus and make her go ahead and accept the bonus. Let's keep one. 2, Shalini is known for confronting her boss wherever they change deadlines. Look at the words used here. She's known for confronting her boss. Now, if she has a history of confronting her bosses, that may show or give a reason why she does not have a strong rapport with the powers that be, in other words, with her superiors, which means that the comments that she is making as to why she has not been given, or why only people who have a strong rapport with the superiors are given the performance bonus, has some basis, has some substance. So her comments might appear real to Nalini and persuade Nalini to decline the bonus and not dissuade, which means that this cannot be our answer. Let's look at option 3. In a close group, Nalini is the first person to receive the bonus. Now, this might encourage her to accept the bonus and will dissuade her from declining the bonus, because she is the first person in a close group to receive the bonus and she will be happy about it. It's an achievement. However, her accepting of the bonus here is not related to the context. That is, we are talking about what is going to be her decision regarding Shalini's comments and her response to Shalini's comments. So this is not directly related to her response to and decision based on Shalini's comments. Therefore, 3 cannot be our answer here because it creates a different reason or gives us a different reason. 4, very few people who are not considered loyal receive the bonus. Now look at the words here. Very few people, hardly anyone who is not loyal receives the bonus. That means only the loyalists receive the bonus. That adds substance to what Shalini has been saying, that only if you are in the good books of the top management will you receive the bonus. So this will not dissuade Nalini from declining the bonus. It will persuade her, convince her to decline the bonus because it will add substance to Shalini's comments. 5, Shalini's irreverent comment about a previous boss pushed her out of that team. Now, like 2, this again might give us a reason why she does not have a strong rapport with the powers that be, and that's why she did not get a performance bonus, and will add a substance to the comments that she's making. So this might persuade Nalini to decline the bonus and believe in what Shalini says. It will not dissuade her. The only thing that will dissuade Nalini from declining the bonus, apart from 3, is 1. 3 is not very much a reason in sync with the given situation here, because we are talking of a situation of Nalini responding to Shalini's comments, which means we will not consider 3 and we will consider 1 as our correct answer. So option 1 is our correct answer. Since receiving the performance bonus, Nalini noticed a change in how her teammates behaved with her. They appeared indifferent. Look at the choice of words here. Appeared indifferent. There were no major issues, but Nalini could not help but sense that her teammates began to perceive her as having a closer relationship with the top management. Nalini assumed, again look at the word, assumed that her teammates might be influenced by Shalini. Consequently, they are avoiding any informal interaction with her. Nalini requires the support of her teammates, and therefore the question asks us, what could Nalini best do to normalize a relationship with them? It's important that she has the support of her teammates in her everyday work. So who are the stakeholders involved in this scenario? There is Nalini, there is Shalini, and the teammates, of course. What is the criteria that we will look for, or our correct option should fulfill? It's important, the support of her teammates is important to Nalini. So she must proactively look at addressing the situation. She has to do something so that any misunderstanding, any assumptions, any perceptions that either party has, Nalini has, or the teammates have, are all cleared and they come back to their former normal working relationship. So this will end up being our criteria. Now let's examine each of the options that we have. Option 1, do nothing in the hope that things will normalize in time. If time could resolve everything. It doesn't happen that way, does it? To leave everything to time is to leave everything to chance. Chances are that it may not resolve on its own, and that the situation, because there is so much time that has passed, the situation might even worsen. There might be a bigger gap in the misunderstanding between her colleagues and Nalini. It might be difficult to reverse the situation if you simply let it be. It doesn't really happen that way. So it's definitely not proactive. It's important, and as a leader, as a positive employee, she must take some proactive action. 2, confront Shalini and ask her to stop spreading rumors. Now, it's an assumption that Nalini is making here, that perhaps Shalini has been spreading rumors. It's not stated as a fact. She has no clear information. It's in her mind that Shalini must be responsible for making these comments or saying these things behind Nalini's back to the teammates. So this definitely is not a proactive action because it involves assumptions. And in fact, it's quite dangerous to confront someone on the basis of assumptions without valid facts. 3, invite her teammates for dinner on a weekend. Now, this might improve their overall friendship and camaraderie. However, it is not necessary that the misunderstandings are sorted unless you create an opening for them, which the option does not explicitly state. You might just have all people over for a weekend dinner. However, it is not necessary they start talking about it. You have to create an opening for this communication. So 3 is also not clearly expressing the requirement here and fulfilling the criteria. Option 4, start saying negative things about their bosses to her teammates. Now this is definitely going to present her in a very negative light. It's very dangerous, in fact, to Nalini's reputation. This may not be who she is, may not be in keeping with her character. Speaking ill about her bosses and others, colleagues, might just not be her character. And you never know. This might even create a lot of further complications, future and unforeseen consequences. Some superiors might hear of this and may not be happy about it. 5, talk to her teammates regarding their indifference towards her. Now, this is the best option here because this is proactive. There are no assumptions involved here. All she is doing is asking them, creating an open, clear communication channel to discuss this matter. She could honestly discuss with them and tell them that she perceives a change in their behavior towards her. It might even be that they are not really behaving so, but that it's simply in Nalini's head. So, all these misunderstandings or incorrect perceptions or assumptions might all be sorted out. Of all these options, clearly it is option 5 that fulfills our criteria, and therefore this is our correct answer. Here's our third question. There's a significant project that Nalini gets at Symbolis. She was chosen to spearhead it. She was also given the autonomy to create her own team to collaborate and drive this project to success. Now, Nalini wanted to build a team where everybody worked very happily with each other. Shalini had previous experience of working with the client, and therefore Nalini wanted her to join the team. But Shalini said that she was willing to work on the project only on the condition that she would be appointed as a team leader. Nalini was aware that the client was very difficult to work with. And of the previous 3 projects with the same client, only the one that Shalini worked on, where she was a team member, was successfully completed. Now, the question is, what should be the best course of action for Nalini regarding the inclusion of Shalini in the team? Now, look at Nalini's situation. Nalini has been given the freedom, she's been chosen as the leader of this project, to lead this project. She's also been given the freedom to create her own team, drive this project, etc. And perhaps this is a unique opportunity for her. Maybe such an opportunity has not appeared earlier for Nalini. But Shalini has had the experience of working with this difficult client. In fact, it was when she was part of a project that the project was successfully completed. So, what is the best course for Nalini here? The stakeholders clearly are Nalini, Shalini, and the client, of course. But what is the criteria that Nalini has to keep in mind? She will have to ensure that the project is successfully completed to the satisfaction of the client, because this is a unique opportunity for her to prove herself. But at the same time, though she needs Shalini in the team, she cannot compromise on her professional growth. Just because Shalini says that she needs to be made the team leader doesn't mean that Nalini compromises on her professional growth. After all, Nalini was chosen to spearhead this, and it might have been the result of her hard work. Let's look at the different options now. Option 1, form a team without Shalini and inform her boss about Shalini's demand. Now, does she need Shalini in the team? Yes, going by the facts of the case, she needs Shalini in the team because Shalini has the experience of working with this difficult client. That means she would want to include her. Second, informing her boss about Shalini's demand might even mean that the boss tries to resolve the matter. And resolving the matter might even mean that Nalini loses the opportunity of being the team head of this project. So, it could very well mean a loss of opportunity to Nalini because she escalates it to her boss, and then the boss tries to intervene and sort the issue. So, option 1 is not the best course of our action for Nalini. 2. Ask Shalini to reconsider, as this project can be important to both of them. Now, this is quite balanced and appears quite win-win too. There are multiple things that this can fulfill. Now, Nalini can very well tell Shalini that, look, I've been given the autonomy and power to create my own team and collaborate with the team and drive the project, which means my decision is final here. Therefore, either you choose to be in this project and use it to your advantage and your growth, or be left out of this because the ultimate choice of the team is my decision. So, Nalini can clearly express this to Shalini and tell her, therefore, to reconsider, because either she gets left out or she uses this opportunity. So appears quite balanced. Let's see if there is any other option that's as balanced as this one. 3. Tell a boss that Shalini should lead the team as she has worked with the client before. Now, if she tells a boss that Shalini should be given the team head, she is losing out on an opportunity that's come away for her professional growth. Why should she compromise on her professional growth? 4. Complain about Shalini's attitude to the human resource manager. Remember, the word used here is complain. This is definitely going to result in further friction. It might worsen the relationship between Nalini and Shalini. Nalini might even end up losing the opportunity because HR might choose to intervene and resolve the situation rather than keep grudges between the two. So Nalini might end up losing this. Perhaps the team head position might go to Shalini. Request a boss to order Shalini to join the team. Look at the choice of word here, order Shalini. Yes, Shalini will oblige and she will join the team. However, that will not ensure her full, wholehearted contribution, participation in the team. She may not willingly participate in the team and the fulfillment of the project. She might find various ways of not contributing her best, which means 5 again is not a best option. The best option, of course, is the win win scenario of telling Shalini that either you use this to your advantage and join the project, or you get left out because I have been given complete autonomy here. So, 2 seems to be a meaningful one that can be the best course of action for Nalini. Here is a third caselet. Now, what are the details of this case? Raman had been working tirelessly as a project manager in the IT department of Flying Groceries, which is a renowned app based supply chain company for the past 3 years. He graduated from a top tier engineering college and he started working immediately. At the end of his first year with Flying Groceries, impressed with his hard work, his boss, Suraj, who is the founder CEO of Flying Groceries, fast tracked his promotion and made him delivery manager responsible for multiple projects of a vertical. Suraj also promised Raman the position of Chief Operation Officer in the 5th year of his tenure. Now, Raman, however, has other aspirations. He pursued entrance exams for business schools because he wanted a different career path or trajectory. And finally, he gets selected in the country's best B school, which is known for a very strong alumni base, great placement records, and demanding academic requirements. Raman was delighted. He had 3 months to join the B school, but the rule at Flying Groceries was that any employee who wished to leave had to serve a month's notice, resign a month in advance, and give a month's notice to the organization. So Raman decided to continue working and decided that he's only going to put in his resignation at the right time, which is a month before he was to leave the organization and join the B school. He decided not to share the news of the offer, B school offer, with anyone for the time being. Now let's examine the question here. Flying Groceries was planning to implement a much needed update to enhance the functionality and user experience of their app. Now, this update was expected to take at least 6 months to complete, and Suraj wanted Raman to lead this project because his leadership was critical for the project's success. So, Suraj completely trusted Raman to lead this project and make it a success. However, Raman knew that he would be only there for 3 months, which he had not shared with anybody else. And he wasn't very sure that he should accept the project because he wasn't sure that he'd be able to complete it. Now, the question here is which of the following information, if true, will best assist Raman in accepting the role of leading the project? Who are our stakeholders here? Of course, there's Raman, there is Suraj, and there is Flying Groceries. What is the criteria that you will look for here? What do you think would be your option that will best assist Raman in accepting the role of leading the project? Any information that enables Raman or will guarantee enabling Raman's completion of the project and not let down the faith of the CEO organization in him. So there are two things that we will want the correct option to fulfill. Raman wants to take up the project because Suraj, the CEO, wants him to lead this project. And he believes that if Raman does not take, perhaps the project might not be successful. So he doesn't want to let down the organization and the CEO's faith in him. But at the same time, he wants to make sure that he's able to complete the project. He doesn't want to take something that he will leave midway and therefore, the project fails. Let's examine the different options. Option 1. During his time with flying groceries, Raman finished some projects ahead of schedule, which is a wonderful thing. And this information might be useful. However, you'll find that there is no clarity on ahead of schedule. How much ahead of schedule? The facts here tell us that the project is of 6 months and he's only there for 3 months. So, will that 3 months suffice? The other projects that he finished, were they months ahead in schedule? So, we need much more information on this in order for Raman to be sure that he will be able to complete this project. So, 1 is not very clear to us. 2, Raman could requisition more human resources to his team for the next 3 months. He could do that. However, this is likely to raise the suspicion of people around him. HR might be interested in understanding why are so many people being requisitioned for a certain project. Moreover, requisition of additional team members also must go through the several layers of hierarchy, organizational hierarchy. And Suraj might soon hear of this. Others, the superiors, top management might soon hear of this and may want to inquire why is he doing this. So this might mean that Raman ends up revealing that he's leaving in 3 months. Not the best thing to do, indeed. 3, Suraj might advise against the update if he got to know that Raman was leaving soon. Now, the fact that Suraj might advise against the update shouldn't actually be information that influences Raman. Raman's priority, as we mentioned in the criteria, is what is it that will best enable my completion of the project? If he doesn't take up the project, Suraj might cancel that project. Now, such information should not influence Raman, nor should he be considering any such influence, any such information. Particularly knowing his limitations of time, Raman cannot accept a project simply because it will not be run otherwise. It will be cancelled otherwise. Option 4. The last 2 projects Raman led were successfully completed by his subordinates during his exams. Now, Raman has some past precedents to fall on. In the past, there have been times where Raman's projects were completed by his subordinates, by his team reporting to him, particularly when he was not actively participating because he was doing his exams at that time. Which means this information, that there are previous instances of his subordinates completing a project without his active presence, this can assure Raman that this time too, if he starts the project, gets the right team in place, and half of the work or much of the work is done, the rest of the work can be easily completed by his subordinates. It will give him strength and belief in the fact that he can do justice to the project. 5. Raman had previously taken many projects home, and the B school would have no classes during the weekends. Now, this is a risky business. Taking projects home while you're a full-time employee working at an organization is one matter. But depending on getting free time at the business school once you join it and you quit your job is a very risky affair. You don't really know what the demands of the business school are. Also, what are their rules? They might even have rules stipulating that you do not take any external work during your studentship at the B school. In fact that in the first few paragraphs is also that this particular B school has a very demanding academic schedule. So Raman might not be able to do justice to this if he takes up and continues the project after joining the B school. So, considering the challenges connected with most other details, the best one for us indeed will be option 4, because this indeed is information that should give him some hope and confidence that even in his absence, his team, as long as he empowers them and trains them the right way, they should be able to complete it. So let's mark 4 as our answer. Now, in this question, after a couple of months, Raman resigns. And Suraj is shocked by Raman's resignation because he did not expect this. It was not informed in advance. And so he asked him to reconsider his decision. When Raman made it clear, Suraj felt betrayed. That led to a series of heated arguments, and they swore never to work again together. Raman joined the B school, but when summer internship placements were approaching, he realized that he required verification of his responsibilities from flying groceries. Now, which of the following actions is the most appropriate for Raman to obtain his verification? Given the background that he had a heated argument with Suraj at the time of his leaving. Now, let's examine who the stakeholders here are. There is Raman, there is Suraj, of course, and the B school, because the B school expects Raman to have the verified documents. What criteria would you want to keep in mind here? Something that involves an unbiased party to mediate and honor the employee right that Raman has for document and work verification. It's his right. Because he was an employee there, his work should be verified despite what the difference was with the management or the top management at the time of leaving. So let's examine each of the options here. Option 1, Raman should write a sincere and professional apology letter expressing regret for the argument Raman had with Suraj. Now, if Raman is not really apologetic, he need not do this. For one, we're not really sure if Suraj is going to accept this. He might still be hurt by Raman's resignation and not oblige. 2, if Raman does not feel apologetic about this, he needn't do that because he does have an employee right for document and work verification. 2, Raman should write an email to Suraj emphasizing Raman's roles and responsibilities and request him to approve them. Now, this again may not evoke a positive response from Suraj. Suraj may still be nursing that hurt or anger. So this is less likely than option 1 to evoke a positive response. Raman should contact the HR representative to facilitate the verification of Raman's responsibilities. As human resource, this representative is an unbiased party, and it's in fact the HR job to ease and resolve interactions and work between employees and employers. And considering Raman's contribution, he has been a stellar employee. Remember, the HR department should be obliged to help Raman out and should do an unbiased job of this. So 3 is a good one. Option 4, Raman should reach out to a mutual acquaintance within the company and ask her to intervene. Could work. However, this has a limitation. It would depend so much on the mutual acquaintance and the power and authority that the mutual acquaintance has. If this mutual acquaintance does not have the power or authority to get Suraj and his company to oblige Raman's request, then that intervention might not work. Option 5, Raman should re-establish communication with Suraj through social media platforms like Facebook and persuade him there. Probably the most dangerous, because it is definitely unwise. It is not a judicious decision to open a discussion on a public platform, especially involving one's professional performance and details. It can impact Raman's reputation and can also impact Suraj and his brand too. So, definitely not the best one. Now, of the given ones, the one that will most work for Raman to obtain his verification is reaching out to an unbiased third party to honor his employee right for document and work verification, which means option 3 should be the best one. Our next question involves the scenario where Raman has received a verification letter from Flying Groceries. But this letter has only outlined his basic job responsibilities during the tenure there. We know that Raman did an outstanding job as an employee there. So Raman required a document to substantiate the additional responsibilities that he undertook at Flying Groceries by going beyond his call of duty. But sadly, he did not have any documentation of such additional responsibilities. Now the question asks us, which of the following options will best help substantiate, validate, ratify the additional responsibilities that Raman undertook? So who are our stakeholders here? Of course, it's Raman. There is Flying Groceries and the business school, because now he's sitting for placements there and he requires validation of the additional responsibilities that he undertook. What is the criteria that we will consider here? Use other available sources to validate his additional responsibilities in the absence of any further help, official help from Flying Groceries. So let's look at each option. Option 1 talks about Raman should create documentation detailing quantifiable metrics and results about his extra work based on his memory. Now, this can be a nice consolidation of his work because there's also quantifiable metrics and results, etc. However, one flaw here is that there is nobody validating this. Whatever said and done, when I put together even quantifiable metrics and results about my own work, without someone testifying to this, validating this, it is likely to be considered unreliable. Option 2. Raman should collect testimonials on his additional responsibilities from his ex-teammates at Flying Groceries. Now, there's no further official help coming in, which means he can probably collect testimonials on the wonderful work that he did from his ex-teammates at Flying Groceries. The ex-teammates are likely to oblige because they did work with Raman. So this might work well. It is fairly easy to collect testimonials from ex-teammates, and they might definitely oblige, and they worked with him together, so it's likely to be considered reliable. Third, Raman should write a public post on social media appealing to Suraj, mentioning the challenges he faced, etc. Now we know that opening up any such discussion on a public platform is definitely not the judicious thing to do. You never know what can be the unwarranted and the unnecessary attention and controversy that it can create. So 3 is definitely not possible. Raman should call Suraj and explain that he will not be able to get a consulting or an operations job without verification. Now, considering the terms on which Raman departed, it is unlikely that Suraj will easily oblige because Suraj still nurses that grudge. That much is quite evident. So Suraj may or may not choose to oblige here given his earlier disappointment. Raman should reach out to the recently recruited Chief Supply or Chain Officer at Flying Groceries to highlight the additional work he contributed to facilitate the officer's task. Now, this would have been a good thing if not for the words recently recruited. Now, because we are told that he is recently recruited, chances are quite likely that he did not work with Raman. And if he did not work with Raman, then any validation given by him will not be considered. And he may not even validate because he really doesn't know anything about this. So if the CSCO is recently recruited, he can have no role in ratifying or validating Raman's contributions. So the only channel that seems open to Raman from the options given here is turning to his ex-teammates at Flying Groceries, which is fairly easy to do, which is also going to be reliable since these teammates worked with him at Flying Groceries. So option 2, it will have to be. Here is our fourth caselet, a slightly lengthy one. Now this has to do with Kastha, a small industrial town which had a steel plant and its associated ancillary companies. In fact, most of the residents were steel plant employees from different states of the country. and there were great employment opportunities, but Kasta didn't really have an airport. And for those who wanted to fly, the nearest airport was in Michaelganj, 100 kilometers from Kasta. To reach the airport, people rented taxi services available at Kasta, and Prabhu was one such taxi service provider. Now, Prabhu's rates are said to be reasonable. He charged rupees 2,200 for a trip, a one-way trip to the airport, but for a round trip, the fare was 3,000. Yet it was not just the affordability that made him popular. He also had a reputation for punctuality and reliability, and that was unmatched. Nobody else could match that reputation that he had for punctuality and reliability. In fact, even when it came to ensuring the safety of women traveling alone, he would always be the first choice. So trustworthy he was that even the steel plant would ask for his services when expecting solo female visitors. In fact, even when residents encountered issues with their personal cars, they would turn to Prabhu for help. But with COVID-19, everything changed for him. There were travel restrictions and safety concerns. Therefore, Prabhu's trips to Michaelganj were limited. Financial strain followed, and there was accumulating interest on his home loan. He was weighed down by debt, but things improved once COVID-19 travel restrictions were lifted. Having faced financial hardships during COVID-19, he sought to offset his losses by raising the fare. But he was aware of the stiff competition in town where many others offered services at a similar fare as his. Let's look at the first question and the additional information here. So Prabhu decided to increase the taxi fare for all future trips. Now, instead of charging less as he was doing earlier, he planned to charge rupees 3,000 for a one-way trip and 1,000 more for a round trip. Now, the question is, which of the following will best help Prabhu's regular customers in accepting the increase in fare? Who are the stakeholders in this scenario? There's Prabhu, of course, the regular customers, and there are the other taxi drivers also, because there is the competition, of course. What would be the criteria that we look for here in answering this question? You want to ensure that Prabhu's regular customers accept the increase in fare. Why is it that they would choose Prabhu over other taxi service providers or taxi drivers despite the increase in fare? It must be something that stands out with Prabhu as a taxi driver. The reasons that make him popular, perhaps. Those differentiating factors that make him stand out. So let's look at the different options. First, because the cost of living has gone up in Kasta. Now, if the cost of living has gone up, it's everybody's business. It will have gone up for everyone. This does not create any sort of differentiation because of which the customers would prefer Prabhu's services despite the increase in fare. 2. Because Prabhu is punctual and reliable. Now look at the comparison point. We are told that his punctuality and reliability and trustworthiness is unmatched. That's one of the facts of the case given. So this can be a differentiating factor. If customers are to choose Prabhu over other taxi drivers, despite the increased fare that he is charging, it must be because there is something else that he has to offer. And that something else could be his punctuality and reliability. So this is a good option. Let's keep this. Option 3, because Prabhu is facing financial hardships. Yes, a few customers might want to empathize with Prabhu and his financial difficulties, especially those regular customers who know him. But it may not be a known fact to everyone. We are not really sure if all customers are aware of his financial hardships. And if they are not aware, they may not want to empathize and simply accept this increased fare. So we are not very sure about option 3. Option 4, because Prabhu offers repair services to residents' car-related issues. Now, it's not stated as a fact in the details of the case that Prabhu offers repair services. That's not given as a reason for his popularity or so. In fact, all that is given is that residents would turn to Prabhu for help whenever they encountered issues with their personal cars. 5, because Prabhu serves many top officials of the steel plant. Once again, it is not stated as a fact or even suggested that Prabhu's services of top officials of the steel plant influences his other customers. We are not told that because he services these top officials at the steel plant, many other customers seek him out. So that's not regarded as a fact for his popularity or so. But one thing that we are told very clearly that makes him stand out, apart from how reasonable his fares were, was that he was punctual and reliable, which means option 2 is definitely something that the customers would consider in accepting the increase in fare. So that's our answer. Look at the additional information in our next question. After Prabhu increased his charges by 30%, the revenue flow was promising in the beginning, especially from the steel plant's official trips. But after a few months, he noticed a dip in private bookings. And on exploring further, he found that while women traveling solo still preferred his service, some of his regular customers were choosing his competitors when traveling as a family. But he knew one fact, that his competitors, while charging lower than him, were still tardy. They ended up coming late and not honoring their commitment and sometimes cancelled at the last minute. Now the question is, which of the following options will best help Prabhu retain his revenue flow? Who are the stakeholders here? The stakeholders are Prabhu, of course, regular customers and other taxi drivers. What should we look for? Our correct option should ensure that Prabhu's revenue flow is retained and not lowered or decreased, because that's the question. Let's examine each of the options. Option 1, revert the pricing of services to its prior rate. Now, if he gets back to the original rate, then his revenue flow is not retained, of course. It is decreased, it lowers. And that is not what our question wants us to do. It wants us to help him retain his revenue flow. Give 50% discount for personal trips. Now, giving discount might bring him more number of bookings, private bookings. But the discount is pretty huge. It's a 50% discount. So it might not necessarily help him retain the revenue flow. The revenue flow might even come down, but the number of bookings might increase. Option 3, stick to his current increased charges. Remember, our priority here is to retain his revenue flow. Because his competitors are tardy and sometimes cancelled at the last minute, the dip in private bookings might even be temporary, because people might be attracted to taxi drivers offering lower charges or lower prices. But soon when they realize that these people are not reliable and Prabhu is known for his unmatched punctuality and reliability, they will surely start coming back to him. So he could just stick to his current increased charges, and that will ensure that his revenue flow does not come down. Let's keep option 3 and look at option 4. Charge a premium when women travel solo. He's already increased his charges. Charging in excess might result in women traveling solo preferring other drivers who charge lower than Prabhu. So there will be a shift of business again. 5. Charge a premium for the steel plant's official trips. Once again, here, charging a premium would be quite unreasonable, because he's already increased his charges, and charging in excess might result in loss of business from the steel plant as well. And these are the two core customer base that he has, which is why charging in excess of that increased charges doesn't make sense. What makes best sense is to keep to his current pricing and know for sure or be hopeful that because of the unreliability factor of his competitors, his regular customers will soon come back to him. So option 3 seems to be the best in the given scenario to ensure that Prabhu's revenue flow is retained and not decreased. Our next question involves Saroj, the new CFO at the steel plant. He used the services of Manoj, a different taxi driver, when he first travelled from the Mikhalganj airport to the plant. Manoj was a rival of Prabhu in the taxi service business at Kasta. Manoj, upon learning that Saroj would be responsible for hiring taxi services, he charged Saroj only 1,500 for that trip. And he also assured Saroj to charge the same for a one-way trip and additional 500 for a round trip to the airport. Now, realizing that the plant is utilizing Prabhu's services for all official trips, Saroj contacted Prabhu to discuss the rates offered by Manoj and inquired why the plant should continue using Prabhu's services at higher rates when Manoj is providing the same service at a lower price. Prabhu realized that Manoj is charging an extremely low price just to push Prabhu out of his business in the steel plant. Because he had a loyal customer base at the steel plant, he realized that Manoj was trying to push him out of business in the steel plant. Now the question is, which of the following reasons given by Prabhu will best help his cause? Now who are the stakeholders here? There's Prabhu, there's Manoj and Saroj. Criteria would be to show that the offer by Manoj was not realistic and sustainable. In fact, to show it objectively, to present objective data that the offer by Manoj is not a realistic one and not sustainable. Let's examine the different options. Now, option 1, Prabhu should warn Saroj that Manoj's offer is not sustainable. Now, look at the scenario here. It is Prabhu's job or business at the steel plant that is at stake here. And if Prabhu gives a warning, it is likely to be seen as, driven by vested interests. It is likely to be seen as selfish, biased, and therefore it won't carry much credibility here because his business there is getting threatened and he gives this warning. Surely Saroj is not going to be convinced of this warning. 2. Prabhu should request Saroj to talk to a few of his colleagues before taking any decision. Now, Prabhu is an interested party here and is likely to be seen as having vested interests. But the colleagues who are not really directly involved in this matter might offer very objective advice. They might point out that the offer made by Manoj is an extremely unreasonable price and is surely not going to be sustainable. And that might even convince Saroj because it's coming from other taxi drivers and not Prabhu. So this is more objective and might convince Saroj more. So let's keep 2 and look at 3. Prabhu should introduce Saroj to Miss Nidhi Taude, his regular customer. Now this is one customer. One customer's view is not likely to hold much substance and convince Saroj. Moreover, because it's his regular customer, Miss Nidhi is likely to be seen as pro-Prabhu here, supporter of Prabhu. 4. Prabhu should offer to lower his price to the one offered by Manoj exclusively for the steel plant. From Prabhu's viewpoint, this is definitely not a reasonable option because he's already dealing with financial strain and very recently increased his charges to deal with the COVID losses. So this is not going to be beneficial to Prabhu. Option 5. Prabhu should tell Saroj that Manoj is unreliable and tardy and women are unsafe with him. Now this one will surely appear like a personal attack and is not going to convince Saroj, because the details given here, these are personal characteristics that are being attacked without any objective data. So Prabhu directly pointing out that Manoj is unreliable and tardy and women are unsafe, etc. is not going to be a valid argument to convince Saroj. So the reason that will best help Prabhu retain his business at the steel plant and convince Saroj would end up being option 2. Here is the 5th caselet. Miss Vijitha Lama, who's a respected figure in the small town of Jampur, found herself stranded on the road again because her small hatchback car broke down, and it was an old car as well. So she called Shyam Saigal, the general manager of Balaji Motors, the only dealership in Jampur that sells Diplomatico cars, the brand that Vijitha drives. and she knew Shyam from her frequent visits for getting a hatchback serviced. So he arrived within 15 minutes, accompanied by a mechanic, and he arranged for the vehicle to be towed and even offered her a ride home. On the way back, he advised her to exchange her old car with a new sports utility vehicle SUV on a good discount from his dealership. He also said that, look, I'm going to give you several additional services to ensure that your SUV remains in good condition. Now, let's look at the first question here. Due to her old car's frequent breakdowns, Vijitha decided it was time to replace it. However, she was afraid whether buying a Diplomatico SUV from Balaji Motors, as suggested by Shyam, will be a right decision for her. The question is, which of the following pieces of additional information will help her the most in taking the right decision? So, who are the stakeholders here? You have Vijitha, of course, and Shyam or Balaji Motors. Now, what should you look for here? What additional information will help her the most in taking the right decision? Which means you will have to objectively evaluate her requirements and the different SUVs available in the market. So, it will have to be a very objective assessment of it. So, any option that does this objective assessment of what her needs are, what are the different SUVs, that could be a correct answer. Let's examine the different options now. She has no idea which SUV to choose and she feels that all SUVs are the same. Now, this is not going to help her take the decision. This is only going to add to her confusion. So, let's eliminate option 1 straight away. Option 2, her brother, an SUV enthusiast staying in a metro city, has advised her to stay away from Diplomatico cars. Now, look at the person in question here. It's her brother. Now, as her brother, he is bound to understand Vijitha's requirements. And as a brother, he is also familiar with Jampur, the city that she is in, though he is staying away. The second good thing about her brother here is that he is an SUV enthusiast, which means he is likely to have good information about the different SUVs. So, he would have the best interests of Vijitha in mind, understand her requirements better, and he is in a position to also objectively assess the different SUVs in the market. 2 appears like a good option. Let's keep that. Option 3. In Jampur, SUVs have a 6-month waiting period. However, one red-colored Diplomatico SUV, not her favorite color, is available at Balaji Motors. Now, is availability and color, are these the only two factors that are to be considered here? No, there are so many other factors that she will have to consider. Her decision of buying a Diplomatico SUV depends on many other factors and not availability and color alone. So, 3 can be eliminated. 4. Jampur, being an old city with congested roads, has a parking problem in many areas. Now, this can be a concern. However, do note that we are talking about parking problem in many areas, perhaps not all the areas that Vijitha might be connected with. So, this is not necessarily the only factor that she needs to consider. Parking in Jampur is one of the factors, but a decision to buy a Diplomatico SUV depends on several other factors. So, let's eliminate 4. 5. A new dealership of Panther Motors, the highest selling car brand in the country, is about to come to the town soon. Now, this is something useful and can certainly be a factor that will influence her. However, we are not really very sure whether Panther Motors offers SUVs. Does it have SUVs on sale? Does it have the different SUV brands on sale? We are not very sure about the different things that Panther Motors might offer her. So, 5 may not be the only thing that will help her, right? It could be one of the factors influencing her decision. But what appears to be a holistic assessment, very objective and not a subjective assessment, ends up being what 2 says. So, let's eliminate all the other options, including option 5, because it's just one of the factors, and come back to 2. 2 will give her the most useful assessment and information and help her in taking the right decision. Our next question tells us that Shyam's satisfaction from meeting the month's quota for selling SUVs turned to dismay when he found that his young executive, one of his young executives, had mistakenly punched an extended warranty for free to Vijitha's purchase contract. Now that mistaken punching could not be reversed from the company system and meant a loss of rupees 19,000 for the dealership. The executive was sorry and was ready to take accountability, but the amount was too large to be borne by the executive. He couldn't pay for it himself. Now, Shyam was not concerned about placing accountability, but rather the recovery of the loss. He was unsure whether he should ask Vijitha for the money. Now, the question asks us, which of the following combinations of the above pieces of information will most likely stop Shyam from trying to recover the money from Vijitha? And the pieces of information given are above. So, which combination or what pieces of information will stop him from trying to recover the money from Vijitha? Let's consider each of these pieces of information in detail. Now remember, our stakeholders here are Shyam, Balaji Motors, Vijitha. The company is also involved here and therefore Diplomatico also. The criteria would be what is most beneficial to Shyam in recovering the money and offsetting the loss. So some conditions that help him in recovering the money, which means he will not therefore ask Vijitha for the money. So what are the pieces of information? Let's look at that. A. Shyam is aware that Vijitha is very happy with the deal he gave her for the car. Now Vijitha might be happy, that is customer satisfaction. But that does not necessarily help Shyam in recovering the money. The loss is still a loss, though he has a customer being happy. So A is not the best piece of information when you consider that the question asks us what is most likely to stop Shyam from trying to recover the money from Vijitha. So if he does not recover the money from Vijitha, that means there should be some other way in which he offsets the loss. A is not the best one here. B. Shyam feels that Diplomatico's software system is complicated for new employees, which might have also played a role in the error. Placing accountability on Diplomatico's software system only sorts the accountability part, but it doesn't really help Shyam recover the loss, which means he will still then end up asking Vijitha for the money. 3. Vijitha has a wide network and can connect Shyam with many potential customers. One of the reasons why he might not want to ask Vijitha for the money is that she might be able to help him in other ways. Now this is a potential benefit for Shyam because she has a wide network and therefore Shyam can get more customers and therefore make more money and perhaps offset the loss. So there is surely some benefit in C for Shyam. So that's a good one. D. Vijitha's brother, a car enthusiast, has enough knowledge of how car dealers operate. Now this is not connected to Shyam and Shyam recovering the loss or offsetting the loss, which means D is not relevant here. It might benefit Vijitha in her decisions, in making decisions, but definitely is of no help to Shyam. E. Shyam feels that if he maintains the current sales volume, he might be able to persuade Diplomatico to write off the amount. Remember, his priority is in recovering the money and offsetting the loss. So if he is able to gain a lot of customers and maintain the current sales volume, then, or meet the sales target, perhaps, Diplomatico might write off the amount. So that loss is not his loss, the company bears the loss. E also therefore offers some benefit to Shyam, and because of that benefit, he might be tempted to not ask Vijitha for the money. So of the given options, C and E are the only ones that hold some potential benefit for Shyam and help him recover the money or offset the loss. And therefore, our correct option will end up being C and E. That is option 4. That's a correct one. Now, some months later, while returning home, Vijitha's new SUV was hit by another car. The SUV was badly damaged, though of course thankfully she was not injured. And when she took the car for repairs to Balaji Motors, she was told that the repairs won't cost her anything because there was an extending warranty on a car which covered such accidents. Now she didn't recall purchasing any such warranty, so she contacted Shyam, and Shyam told her that the extended warranty was mistakenly punched into a contract and the mistake could not be reversed. So he bore the cost of 19,000 rupees, and he said that Vijitha should consider it as a gift from Balaji Motors because she has purchased the highest priced Diplomatico SUV. Now, as she goes back home, she wonders if she should pay rupees 19,000 to Shyam, since the extended warranty actually helped her that day. Now, the question is, which of the following is the most compelling rationale for Vijitha to justify not paying rupees 19,000 to Shyam? Most compelling reasoning for her to not pay rupees 19,000. Now, who are the stakeholders here? There is, of course, Vijitha, there is Shyam or Balaji Motors. What will you want to look for? Any reasoning that makes Vijitha view it as something that she deserves, something that is a customer benefit or an additional service, an add-on given to her, because remember, she did purchase the highest priced Diplomatico SUV from Balaji Motors. So, she sees it as some sort of additional thing. Let's examine the different options. Option 1, she paid more for the Diplomatico SUV compared to the price of a similar SUV from Panther. We are told that she bought the highest priced Diplomatico SUV. But then, if you compare the price of Diplomatico SUV and the price of other similar SUVs, just because she's paid more for Diplomatico SUV doesn't necessarily justify this. It might even be that the additional pricing was for product features or something that is better with the Diplomatico SUV. So this cannot be reasoning that justifies her not paying the 19,000 rupees. 2. She is aware that for expensive SUVs like hers, dealers often offer free extended warranty. Now this can be a justifiable reason, because if you feel that, look, I've bought an expensive SUV and this is just an additional warranty or an additional benefit service, customer service that the company is offering to me. Now, this piece of information might make her view it as, a customer benefit and therefore justify her not paying rupees 19,000 to Shyam. Because remember, Shyam had originally offered her several additional features to ensure her SUV remained in good condition. And this is part of the facts of the first paragraph. So, her expectation of more service or a free extended warranty can appear quite justified here. 3. The mistake happened 3 months back and is water under the bridge now. Just because this incident happened 3 months ago, you cannot use that, passage of time to justify not paying the money. Somebody's loss is somebody's loss, even if it's been 3 months since then. So this reasoning cannot really be used to justify not paying Shyam the money. 4. Had the accident not happened, she would not have been aware of the warranty. Now, just because you're saying that she was unaware of this, again, is not justification to not pay the money now. She's aware of it now. And therefore, if she's aware and she feels she should pay the money. So there is no rationale here for not paying the money. So let's avoid 4 as well. 5. Shyam would have come back to her if he had needed the money. Now the question here is not about Shyam needing the money or Shyam asking Vijitha for the money. The question here asks us to identify what would justify Vijitha's not paying the money to Shyam. So 5 does not become relevant. What is the most relevant? That will make Vijitha feel that she deserves it as a customer of an expensive SUV is seen in 2. So let's eliminate all the other options and identify 2 as a rationale that will make her justified in not paying the money to Shyam. Here's the next caselet. Now this is a shorter one and fairly easier. This has to do with ABC Business School, which was said to be a school with a difference. It was regarded as one of the top B schools in Western India, but the school catered to smaller organizations seeking to hire students for sales and marketing positions and had occasional openings in HR roles too. Now, the organizations that recruited from ABC did not really care for the talent of the students, but appreciated the students' ability to follow orders without questioning them. So that's the kind of students that they wanted to hire. The school's strength laid in its alumni, who consistently returned to the institution for recruitment, thereby ensuring that the school was able to continue its existence. The school attracted a specific segment of business school aspirants because of the placement record, who wanted a solid job but were not really excited about learning. Now let's look at the first question here. The additional information here tells us that recently some alumni of ABC threatened that their children should be given preference in admissions or they would withdraw as recruiters. The director was, however, hesitant about allowing alumni to interfere in running the school because the fairness of the admission processes had earned ABC high respect within the corporate world that recruited them. So now the question is, which of the following reasons, if true, will best help the director not to worry about pandering or giving in to those alumni? So we have to pick the reason that will best help the director not to give in to the threat of the alumni. So who are the stakeholders in this case? You can see that the director is involved, therefore ABC Business School too, and the alumni, particularly the ones who are threatening the director. What will you need to look for in your correct option? You need a reason that weakens the threat of the alumni, because the question asks us what will help the director not to give in to those alumni. So you need a reason that weakens the threat of the alumni and strengthens the director's or ABC Business School's authority. Let's examine the different options. Option 1, the alumni were the reason that ABC was able to attract corporates. Now we are looking for something that makes the ABC school appear independent and not dependent on the alumni. Option 1 indicates a dependency. It shows that ABC needs the alumni and therefore it strengthens the threat of the alumni. Let's look at 2. Some of the alumni were regularly teaching as guest faculty in the school. Now, if the alumni were part of the teaching process in the school, this also makes the school dependent on the guest faculty. So, ABC is dependent on the guest faculty who are alumni. That means the alumni position becomes stronger, the alumni threat becomes stronger. Option 3. The alumni depend on ABC's success to enhance their employability. Now, the case is reversed here. You can see that the dependency itself is reversed. The alumni are dependent on the continued success of ABC to enhance their own employability in the market, which means the alumni need ABC to succeed, to improve their status in the employment market, and therefore they may not necessarily carry out the threat that allows the director to assert ABC policies and not give in to the alumni and the threat. So 3 is a very good option that weakens the threat of the alumni and strengthens the director's authority. 4. No business school in the region has allowed alumni any say in managing the operations. Now, saying that no other business school has allowed alumni to participate in the operations of the school can't really be considered to be applied to ABC, because we are told in the beginning itself, in the facts of the case stated at the start, that ABC is slightly different. It is not like your regular B schools. ABC's strength is said to be its alumni. They need the alumni, the ones who come back consistently to recruit from ABC. So that means it's not comparable to other B schools, and we can't consider this option as strengthening the director's authority. Option 5. ABC has not entertained any requests from the alumni till date. Now, just because we don't have a precedence of entertaining any such requests doesn't mean that this time it cannot. So, option 5 doesn't really give us any substance or reasoning to not worry about giving in to the alumni. So, option 5 cannot be considered. What we will end up considering is option 3, because this is a clear case of the alumni being dependent on ABC and not the other way around. So, option 3 will best help the director not to worry about pandering to those alumni. Now, let's look at the next question. B schools were ranked by popular magazines across the country, and a few B schools in the same region were applying for rankings because rankings would affect their visibility among corporate houses and recruiters. To achieve a good rank, ABC faculty members who were primarily focused on teaching would need to start some research and consulting activities. These are the prerequisites for a ranking, a good ranking. The director was aware that asking the faculty to switch to research and consulting would not be easy. The question is, which of the following facts will best help the director not to worry about applying for rankings? So, what will show this B school does not require any ranking? So, who are the stakeholders here? The director and ABC B school, as well as the faculty involved. But what do you need here to answer this question? You need a fact that shows that ABC already has a visibility among corporate houses and recruiters, and the ranking system was not really required. Because remember, what we are told is that the other B schools in the same region wanted rankings so that their visibility among corporate houses and recruiters would improve. So, we need a fact that shows that ABC does not need further visibility. It already has a visibility. It doesn't need rankings to enhance its visibility. Let's look at the different options. Option 1, the alumni do not follow research publications in general. Now, research and consulting activities is said to be important to get a good ranking. And B schools look for a good ranking to enhance their visibility among recruiters, which means that not following research publications in general is not directly related to enhancing visibility among recruiters. Research publications will help you get a good ranking, but it's the rank that will enhance your visibility among recruiters. So let's eliminate option 1. Option 2. The alumni do not care for the teachers or classes in general. Once again, this is also not directly related to the need for a rank or to enhance your visibility among recruiters. So let's eliminate 2 as well. 3. The alumni are aware that ABC offers a retainable talent pool. Now remember, we need a good ranking so that we become visible among recruiters. But if the alumni, who are said to be the strength of ABC, because they are the key recruiters, the ones who keep consistently coming back, if they are aware that ABC offers a retainable talent pool, then perhaps we don't need to apply for rankings. So, 3 could be a very strong reason which will help the director not to worry about applying for rankings because it already is visible among the alumni who are the recruiters. So, let's keep 3 and look at 4. ABC's placements in the previous year were completed in 4 days. Now, just because the previous year's placements happened easily doesn't necessarily guarantee future placements. In fact, it might even create the possible requirement for ranking because earlier it happened easily, this year we are not very sure, so maybe a ranking will enhance our visibility. 5. ABC could never break into the top 40 ranks in the country when it applied earlier. Saying that it could not break into the top 40 ranks shows that ABC faces a challenge in getting a top ranking. But that does not justify why it does not need a ranking. It has a challenge in getting a good ranking. But why does it not need a ranking? That is the answer that we need for our question, which means 5 does not address our question. What addresses our question ends up being 3 because the entire need for enhancing visibility among recruiters becomes null and void when you know that the alumni are aware of the retainable talent pool that ABC offers. So option 3 is our answer. Now our next question involves some faculty members and their complaint. What was their complaint? They complained to the director regarding the lack of attendance and seriousness among many students during classes and exams. This was the case for decades, but became more rampant in the last few years. The director was aware that the classes were mostly rituals conducted to tell the world that ABC believed in education, but really had little bearing or little impact on placements. But he still believed that students must be told to attend classes and take exams with a serious attitude. The question says, which of the following announcements by the director will best ensure that faculty stop complaining about student attendance? This one should be an easier one. Now, our stakeholders are, of course, the director, the faculty, and the students. You need an announcement that will guarantee better student attendance because that announcement by the director will best ensure that faculty complaint stops. They stop complaining about student attendance, and they will stop complaining about student attendance only if the students start attending. So, the announcement should guarantee better attendance. Let's examine each of the options. Option 1. Students who attend every class should be given thank you notes from the director. Now, this is a nice gesture and shows appreciation from the director. However, it needn't necessarily guarantee better student attendance. Students might not really be very keen or intent on collecting thank you notes. Second, students should be asked to pay a monetary penalty for missing classes. This is surely going to bring student attendance. However, it's a harsh gesture, quite unfair too, can be criticized as harsh and unfair by parents and outsiders, because that additional monetary penalty might even accumulate to a lot. And generally, this is also not a practice. We might even have to check that. Is it a norm in educational institutions? So, might not be the best one, though of course, it can bring back student attendance. 3. Faculty members who make classes very engaging should be felicitated during the convocation. Now, we don't know that if there is a necessary connection between classes becoming very engaging and student attendance. So, looking at things from the faculty members' perspective and saying that classes should become very engaging doesn't necessarily guarantee student attendance. 4. Only students with at least 85% class attendance will participate in placements. Now, this one looks like a more balanced option. When you compare 4 and 2, you find that this appears more like a just way to guarantee students' attendance. In fact, this is also a common practice at a lot of academic institutions, that there is a minimum attendance requirement in order to participate in the exams or even participate in placements. And placements are most important for the students at ABC school. So 4 is a far better one than 2 because 2 could be criticized as harsh and unfair. 5. Students should be rewarded for contributing to in-class discussions and learning. Good measure. However, the reward component is not very clear here. What is the reward? Is the reward an enhanced credit score? Is the reward a thank you note? We're not really very sure. And unless that reward is clearly specified, we don't know if that is going to be motivating enough for students. So, once again, 5 does not necessarily guarantee student attendance. What is the best one of the lot is option 4 because it is a regular practice and it's fair and just. So, 4 is what will best ensure that the faculty stop complaining, because student attendance is bound to increase. Here is our last caselet, a slightly lengthy one and has a lot of facts in it, therefore quite difficult. Now we're talking here of Deep Sea, which is a natural gas extraction company that pulls out natural gas from rock formations beneath the seabed. The gas is then sent to a bottling plant through an extensive pipeline network. The gas in rock formations is pressurized so that it can flow to the surface and reach the bottling plant. But if there is excessive pressure, that will lead to bursts in the pipeline, and this is known as a blowout. A blowout is a dangerous thing for the company because it carries a staggering cost. There is environmental damage, there is also a reputation loss for the company and financial losses as well. So this is very important. Preventing any sort of blowout is very important for the company. Now, there are industry safety regulations which divide the pipeline network into 3 levels. There is level 3, which is under the seabed, level 2, which is above the seabed, but it's still in the deep sea, and level 1 is near the surface. And the safety regulations require multiple blowout preventer valves. Now, they have to be placed at the 3 different levels. When the pressure in any part of the pipeline rises beyond a critical level, the nearby valves are opened remotely to release the pressure in a controlled manner so that the blowout can be prevented. The number of valves across the pipeline helps localize the pressure release. But sometimes the valves themselves can malfunction. And in such cases, using a higher number of valves ensures that a malfunctioning valve can seek the safety of a nearby functioning valve. So if one valve is malfunctioning, the nearby functioning valve can be used to manage the situation. And how can a valve malfunction? In 2 ways. One is it fails to release pressure when needed, or it can just leak gas during regular operations. In the deep sea network, 30% of the valves are located at level 3, which is the deepest level. And the remaining valves are evenly distributed between the top 2 levels. These valves are very important to maintaining safety, and they are exclusively supplied by GoValve, which is a highly specialized manufacturer that holds a monopoly in the country's market. Pretty lengthy one, a lot of things for us to remember. Let's look at the first question now. So GoValve has recently proposed a maintenance package for the valves to deep sea, and that includes a clause that whenever a valve at level 3 malfunctions, all valves at that level will be replaced. But then for deep sea, accepting this clause will be quite expensive because it involves a significant premium. Now the management of deep sea have some extra information to consider. And the question asks us, which of the following combinations of the above pieces of additional information will help the management of deep sea the most in accepting the clause? So we need to consider the information for the management of deep sea to accept the clause. Now, some information that we'll have to recall here will be that when the pressure in any part of the pipeline rises beyond a critical level, nearby valves are opened so that the pressure can be released in a controlled manner. And sometimes the valves themselves malfunction, so using a higher number of valves ensures that a malfunctioning valve can be replaced, or instead of the malfunctioning valve, a nearby functioning safe valve can be used. Now, who are the stakeholders in this case? Deep sea, of course, the industry safety regulations and GoValve. Now, what is the criteria important here for deep sea in accepting this clause? Information that prioritizes deep sea safety maintenance. For deep sea, the safety of this entire project in this line of work is most important. Now, what can we consider? Look at A. The valves are known to be prone to malfunction. Now, this becomes very important information because if the valves are known to malfunction, then they must accept a clause like this so that the safety can be maintained and ensured. B. Any malfunction in one valve often results in leakage from the neighboring valves. Now, this can also be important information because safety would depend on this. GoValve has also offered replacement of all the valves of level 3 when a valve malfunctions. So that's important information that they'll need to keep in mind. C. GoValve is ready to negotiate a discount if the clause is accepted. Now, considering DeepSea's priority for safety, the discount is not really an important thing for DeepSea. Even if GoValve is ready to negotiate a discount, the discount is not DeepSea's priority. D. Replacing the valves at level 3 is a very difficult job, which is best done by GoValve. Now, if it is challenging to replace the valves at level 3 and GoValve is the best at this replacement, then certainly this becomes important consideration. GoValve is already said to be a highly specialized monopoly manufacturer of these valves. And if they can also do the difficult job of replacement, it is definitely something that should be considered. The chances of pressure buildups are higher near the seabed. Now, this can be tempting to us. It might look like important information. However, do understand that we are talking about level 3, and level 3 is said to be under the seabed. What we are talking about here is that pressure buildups are higher near the seabed. The second point here is that the fact states that level 3 has 30% of the total valves and the other 70% is distributed across the other two levels, which perhaps suggests that pressure buildups are not higher at level 3 or around the seabed, under the seabed or near the seabed. So somehow E does not become a piece of information in line with what is given as the facts of the case. Now, let's look at the different combinations. We decided that A and B are important to us, but between D and E, because we've already eliminated C, between D and E, what becomes important in connection with this entire caselet and the facts given ends up being D. So, A, B and E is an option that we might want to reject and arrive at A, B and D. So, that will be the most important information that will enable DeepSea to accept the clause. So, A, B and D, that is option 1, is a correct answer. For our second question, we have a startup, SafeValve, which has started importing a technologically superior brand of valves from abroad, and that is said to bring a significant reduction in gas leakage. Now, SafeValve has put together a large inventory of these imported valves, but is not able to find a buyer in the local market. So, an NGO that works for the protection of marine lives has appealed to DeepSea to replace their existing valves with the product from SafeValve. But the installation of this new valve will require substantial modification in the pipeline, and that can even include unknown challenges in installation and maintenance. The question asks us, which of the following reasons, if true, can DeepSea best cite to publicly reject the appeal? So, what can be used for DeepSea to publicly reject the appeal? Who are the stakeholders here? Many of them. DeepSea, of course. Industry safety regulations, very important for DeepSea. GoValve, SafeValve, and the NGO. Let's examine each of these options. Option 1, the new valves cost twice as much as the existing valves. Now, we know that for DeepSea, cost or price is not a priority. Safety is a priority. In this line of work, DeepSea is only going to consider safety over cost. 2. GoValve is a reputed brand and had a partnership with DeepSea for a long time. Just because GoValve has had a long partnership with DeepSea for a long time does not justify that DeepSea should compromise on quality and safety. 3. Only some developed countries have mandated the use of the new valves, but some developed countries have made it compulsory. And these are developed countries that we are talking about. If some developed countries are making compulsory the use of the new valves, it only justifies the use of the safe valves and not their rejection. So 3 cannot be used here by Deep Sea to reject the appeal. 4. Safe valve depends exclusively on imports and may be prone to procurement issues. Now, the fact stated is that Safe Valve has already established a large inventory of these imported valves, which means that perhaps immediately there may not be any procurement issues because they have a sufficient inventory or stock of these valves. Also considering that Safe Valve has imported a large number of valves and kept them in a ready inventory, it may not be a very challenging thing to procure these valves. So somehow option 4 is not in line with the facts given in the case. So it's not highly likely to be an issue in the future too. Could be, but for now we can't really think of this as a major issue because there is already a large inventory. So maybe 4 is not the best thing that Deep Sea can use to reject the appeal. 5. Go Valve follows the strictest global standards, industry standards of leakage prevention. Now, when you say that the current valves are following the highest global standards of leakage prevention, then that justifies an unnecessary replacement with some new valves. In fact, it's stated in the passage in the Caselet that the installation of this new valve will require substantial modification in the pipeline, entailing unknown challenges in installation and maintenance. And if Go Valve is already giving the best standards, maintaining the best standards in safety and quality, then why would we want to undertake the risk of unknown challenges? So Deep Sea can best use 5 to reject the appeal. That means options 1, 2, 3 and 4 are incorrect because they are not the best reasons that Deep Sea can use. Option 5 ends up being our correct answer. Now our third question continues with the details of Safe Valve, but with an update to industry safety regulations which allows a lower number of valves in a pipeline network if technologically superior valves similar to those imported by Safe Valve are used for the entire network. Now Deep Sea knows that the more the number of valves, the better is Deep Sea's ability to contain blowouts. And remember, containing blowouts, preventing them is a priority because a blowout involves a staggering cost for the company. However, a higher number of valves increases the chance of a leakage. So Deep Sea is thinking of a proposal to reduce the number of valves to almost half by replacing the existing valves given by Go Valve with the valves sold by Safe Valve. So there's a team that is evaluating the proposal and it's made some observations. Now our question is, which of the following observations is the most helpful in rejecting the proposal? So the observations are made by the team. Which observation will most help Deep Sea in rejecting the proposal? Now, who are our stakeholders here? Of course, there is Deep Sea, there is Safe Valve and Go Valve, but there's also the updated industry safety regulations. What will you need in your correct option? The observation should show the need for a higher number of valves to contain blowouts, because remember that is a priority, than a reduced number of valves. Only then will Deep Sea be able to reject the proposal. Now let's examine each of the options. Option 1, there is no clear industry standard for the minimum number of valves required at a certain level. Now, just because there is no clear industry standard does not mean that a lower number of valves cannot be used, right? So you're saying that there's no standard for a minimum number, which doesn't necessarily rule out the usage of a lower number of valves. 2. At level 1, the chance of a pressure rise is much lesser compared to the other 2 levels. Now, this one will definitely not help in rejecting the proposal because it says that the chance of a pressure rise is lower. That means blowouts would be fewer And if blowouts are fewer, you don't need more number of valves. So 2 is also not helpful in rejecting the proposal. 3. At level 3, a blowout results in more time-consuming and expensive repairs compared to the other 2 levels. Now, here you find a challenge. What is the challenge? With fewer number of safe wall valves, containing a blowout can be a challenge, because that is what the data tells us. Further, if the repairs of a blowout are time-consuming and expensive at one of the levels, particularly level 3, that points to the need to prevent any possible blowout, suggesting keeping more valves than less. Because if the repairs are going to be very expensive, then you need to prevent that blowout at any cost. And remember, preventing blowouts is a priority in the first place. And add to that this information that it's going to be expensive. So 3 clearly highlights a challenge which DeepSea can use in rejecting the proposal of replacing go valves with safe wall valves and reducing the number of valves. Option 4. The superiority of the safe wall products is only in terms of preventing leakage, not blowouts. Now this might seem like a likely answer, because yes, it's true that for DeepSea, it's important to prevent blowouts. That is a priority. However, do understand that it's stated in the facts of the caselet that a leakage is also one of the malfunctions. So it's not completely against safe wall. This option doesn't completely allow us to reject safe wall, because it does prevent leakage, and a leakage is one of the malfunctions of the pipeline. So between 4 and 3, 3 is still a stronger one. Let's examine 5 before we arrive at a correct answer. If a go valve is opened to prevent a blowout, the chance of leakage from the valves within a certain distance increases. Now this talks of something that goes against go valve valves, and it actually ends up supporting the use of safe wall valves. Because if a go valve is opened to prevent a blowout, then the valves within a certain distance also begin to leak, which is not a good thing. So 5 is not helpful in rejecting the proposal of safe valves, but definitely 3 is something that offers great challenge here. Not even 4, because 4 does talk about safe wall preventing one of the malfunctions. So 3 talks about how it is not of much use in a blowout. Secondly, that a blowout results in more time-consuming and expensive repairs, which means option 3 is the most helpful in rejecting the proposal. Quite a challenging question this was.